Most people believe manipulation is something obvious, something you can see coming if you're just alert. But in reality, manipulation often works because it's subtle, rational on the surface, and makes you think you're making your own choices. Niccolò Machiavelli, often misunderstood as someone who promoted deceit and cunning, actually described how manipulation works from the inside. He showed how power operates and how people are influenced without ever realizing it. His writings offer a mirror to human behavior that's both uncomfortable and essential. If you want to stop being manipulated, the first step is understanding what manipulation looks like when it's not dramatic or aggressive, but instead calm, logical, and disguised as help or advice. In this video, we're going to explore Machiavelli's deep psychological insights and gradually uncover the warning sign you should never ignore. By the end, you might start seeing certain people in a very different light. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe PsychLens channel. We will get early access to new video and insights personal in spiritual growth. Now let's get started. Machiavelli argued that people are more easily controlled by their hopes and fears than by reason. That isn't a judgment, it's an observation. It means that if someone can shape what you hope for or what you fear, they can influence your decisions without needing to force you. For example, when someone tells you that you'll lose an opportunity if you don't act fast, or that you'll disappoint someone if you say no, they're not using facts. They're using fear of loss or guilt as tools. This is emotional leverage, and most of the time we don't recognize it because we're not trained to look for it. To break free from manipulation, you must learn to identify emotional leverage. Ask yourself, is this decision being shaped by facts and logic, or by the fear of consequence or the promise of reward? If you feel rushed, guilty, scared, or overly flattered, those are signals that manipulation may be involved. Machiavelli didn't just warn leaders about this, he showed how even the most intelligent people could be tricked if they don't guard against their emotional reactions. One of the core ideas in Machiavelli's work is that people will often do what serves their interest, not necessarily what's good or fair. This doesn't mean all people are selfish. It means people act based on incentives, whether they admit it or not. For example, someone who praises you constantly might be building trust, not because they admire you, but because they want you to owe them something later. This is known as the reciprocity principle in psychology. It's when someone gives or flatters you, expecting a return. To defend against this, you don't have to become cold or distrustful. You just need to ask, is this generosity free, or is there an expectation hidden behind it? Machiavelli also emphasized that appearances matter more than reality for most people. He wrote that it's more important for a leader to appear virtuous than to actually be virtuous, because people judge based on what they see, not what they investigate. This observation applies to manipulation as well. If someone looks trustworthy, speaks confidently, dresses well, and acts kind, we tend to give them the benefit of the doubt. But that's a mistake. Judging someone by their image rather than their patterns of behavior is how manipulation thrives. You have to focus on what people consistently do, not what they claim or how they seem. Manipulators often create confusion to control others. Confusion weakens your ability to make clear decisions. Machiavelli wrote that when people are uncertain, they cling to whoever seems most confident. So, a manipulator might overwhelm you with mixed messages, excessive details, or contradictions, then offer their guidance as the solution. This technique works because when you're mentally exhausted, you're more likely to agree just to find relief. To avoid this, step back when you feel overwhelmed. Clarify what the issue is. Write down what you know and what you don't. Decision-making improves when you regain clarity. Don't rush. Manipulators rely on urgency to bypass your thinking. Another tool manipulators use is isolation. This isn't always physical isolation. Sometimes it's psychological. They may try to convince you that others don't understand you or that you're better off keeping things private. Machiavelli noted that rulers would often weaken enemies not by attacking them, but by dividing them. If someone discourages you from talking to others or comparing opinions, ask why. Healthy influence welcomes outside perspectives. Manipulation wants to be the only voice you hear. Understanding Machiavelli also means understanding that not all manipulation is intentional. Sometimes people influence others out of habit, fear, or learned behavior. A parent might guilt a child into obedience without realizing they're emotionally manipulating. A friend might exaggerate their need to get support. The goal isn't to demonize others, but to train yourself to spot when your autonomy is being replaced by someone else's agenda. You can't always change others, but you can take responsibility for your reactions. One key concept in Machiavelli's thinking is the idea of control. He believed that to maintain power, you must either control the environment or control perception. This applies to how others might manipulate you as well. If someone can't control your choices directly, they'll try to influence how you perceive those choices. This might involve framing situations in a way that makes only one option seem acceptable. For example, if you don't support this, you're not being loyal. But real loyalty involves honesty and respect, not pressure. Learn to challenge the frame. Ask, are there other ways to see this? Who benefits from this framing? Psychologically, we are more prone to manipulation when we seek approval. If you are dependent on being liked or being seen as good, you become vulnerable. Machiavelli didn't say you should not care what people think. He said you should not need it to function. You need to be able to walk away from a conversation, a deal, or even a relationship if your values are being compromised. That's not being cold, it's being free. Emotional self-awareness is your best defense. If someone can predict your emotional triggers, they can control your behavior. This is why understanding your own needs, insecurities, and desires is critical. Machiavelli believed that a wise person studies human nature, not to exploit others, but to protect themselves. You need to know what motivates you, so others can't use it against you. If you fear being alone, for instance, someone might manipulate you by threatening to leave. But if you're comfortable with your own company, that threat loses power. Also, remember that manipulation often disguises itself as help. People may claim they're acting in your best interest, but that's not always true. Ask yourself, who benefits most from this decision? Would this advice be the same if they had nothing to gain? This line of thinking helps separate genuine support from hidden agendas. In everyday life, manipulation can appear in subtle behaviors. Guilt trips, selective truth-telling, excessive flattery, or even small favors that are used as leverage later. Machiavelli's message is not to become paranoid, but to become observant. Pay attention to repetition. If someone constantly makes you feel guilty, confused, rushed, or indebted, they may be manipulating you. To truly never be manipulated again, you don't need to become controlling. You need to become conscious. You need to develop the habit of pausing before reacting, of questioning what drives your choices, and of identifying emotional tactics. Once you see the strings, the puppet show loses its magic. Machiavelli's insights remind us that human behavior follows patterns, and when you understand those patterns, you're no longer just a participant. You become aware of the stage you're on. This awareness doesn't isolate you. It empowers you to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than silent control. It allows you to make decisions from a place of understanding, not pressure. It turns manipulation into something you observe, not something you fall into. The real power is not in controlling others. The real power is in not being controlled.